everyone! Welcome to the channel dedicated to sharing the profound insights and wisdom of Andromedan contactee Alex Collier. If you're new here, you're in for a journey that expands your mind and consciousness, bringing you closer to understanding the messages from the fifth density Andromedan extraterrestrials. For those returning, we're grateful for your continued support. Before we dive into today's enlightening content, we have a small favor to ask. If you find value in the knowledge shared in this video, please consider hitting that like button, subscribing to our channel, and clicking the bell icon so you never miss an update. Your engagement helps us amplify Alex Collier's message, allowing us to reach a larger audience with these vital messages. We'd also love to hear from you, so please engage with the comments below. Whether it's a question, your thoughts, or even just an emoji for the sake of engagement, every comment counts. We read every single comment, and your feedback is incredibly valuable to us. Additionally, if you'd like to support us further, consider giving a super thanks tip by clicking the heart with the $sign. This small gesture allows us to continue bringing you more of Alex's messages, unfiltered and directly from his lifelong experiences with the Andromedans. Now sit back, relax, and enjoy today's video.
Speaking from an undisclosed location deep in the Highlands of Scotland, it's so secret you can't even see me. That's why. So, from the Highlands of Scotland to the Highlands of Colorado, how's things over there? It's been raining really hard for the last 3 weeks. It's pretty diluvian now. How's things for you?
Colorado's been beautiful. It's been really nice.
Lucky you.
Yeah. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for being here. Thank you for attending the live telecast. There's always preparation and trying to make things connect and link up and hook up and plug in. And every time we do one of these webinars, I'm always reminded of miracles because somehow at the very last second, we make this thing work, and it's interesting. Just some days it doesn't want to cooperate, and today was one of those. So I'm very grateful that miracles do happen because we're here right now. Hey, as Ed Sullivan used to say, we've got a really big show for you tonight. We have a lot of things to talk about. And I know if you're watching the news, which I don't recommend, it's not good for your sanity. It's bleak, it's dark, it's horrific, it's terrible. Everyone sucks. It's just, and nothing could be further from the truth. Nothing could be further from the truth. There's a lot of really amazing things going on. And we're going to cover some of that. I want to address a couple of things first, though. And one is, have you been hearing about Anunnaki and reptilians on the surface of the earth in Syria? Have you been hearing about that? And that's interesting, to say the least. I wanted to remind you that should these individual and separate stories be true, because they're coming from different locations in the Middle East, should this be true, I want to go back to something that we started talking about a year ago, maybe even longer. And I know that I've mentioned it before the last 6 months, about the effort underground to flush the dark ones to the surface. It's interesting if this is what's actually happening. I think it's worth paying attention to, because the descriptions of some of these beings are dead on the money. And and anyway, just be looking for those stories and pay attention to them. I think they're fascinating, frankly, and I wouldn't at all be surprised if we're beginning to see this transition here, the headway that we talked about, of bringing them to the surface so they can be pulled out of here. So we'll have to pay attention to that. I also want to respond to an email that I got regarding Nibiru. And I thought it was a very interesting email, so I want to address it because we haven't talked about that in a while. I'm not going to mention names, but there is a speaker who said that Nibiru was blown up in 2003 as it was entering our solar system. Nibiru is a planet. Nibiru has never been the issue. The issue has been the dwarf star, which the Greeks called Hercules. Okay? It's a brown dwarf star, and in 2003, I'm going to address this issue this way. In 2003, were any of you aware of a star exploding outside our solar system? Were any of you aware of a gravitational anomaly that would have dramatically affected our entire solar system should a dwarf star have been blown up? No, I haven't been. The Vatican telescope at Mount Graham, with its infrared camera lens named Lucifer, I think they've had to change the name recently, is still watching it come in from the constellation of Sagittarius. So the whole purpose of slowing it down and negotiating that is so that when it enters the solar system, it is on the far other side of the sun and we're over here, so that the Earth changes would be minimized as much as possible. That still doesn't mean that there won't be some type of intervention, because this thing carries with it a tail of debris that some say extends over 2 million miles. Okay? So now that we've addressed that, we can move on to other things. You know, the Aborigines people have been around for about 50,000 years. The Indian people, the Indian civilization, can trace its roots back at least 25,000 years. Now, these cultures, along as the other indigenous cultures, had all of their own healing modalities. Okay, they learned to use roots and plants and trees and maybe certain parts of animals. Somehow, some way, they were able to come up with ways of healing themselves, some of which probably worked very, very well because they're still in practice today, and others we just simply don't know. But I'm sure if it didn't work, they would just cast it aside and continue to discover ways to heal their civilizations, their populations, their children, their elders, etc., because they held life in great esteem. Anyway, these healing modalities, this natural medicine, has been around for tens of thousands of years. There are so many things that are out there that have been used for thousands and thousands of years that you have to sneak to do. You have to leave a country. You just cannot openly treat yourself with these things, or you fear arrest, and many other things. And that's because all this money went into creating a narrative and then changing the truth about the healing modalities, natural medicine, versus the pharmaceutical companies. That's how it's done. That's how it's done. And that is how they have changed the perspective of humanity in the last 150 years. You take over the schools, you flip the truth upside down, you teach your narrative, you don't even discuss real history, true history, so no one really knows what it is. All they know is the narrative that they're being fed. And you do this after generation. Now, the average lifespan is between 70 and 80 years. So all it takes is 8 decades. And anyone who remembered something, once they cross over, for the most part, it's forgotten. That's no more true than it here is in the United States. They don't teach civics anymore. They haven't taught civics in grade school since the 70s, early 70s. And now we have this millennial group, these middle-aged kids who haven't got a clue about self-government. About the history of the United States, about the reasons that the United States was created, and what went into creating this opportunity. Now, the same can be said for many other countries. England's no different. A lot of its history isn't taught in schools anymore. Europe, China, it's the same thing. You control the narrative, and over an extended amount of time, that narrative becomes the truth, even though 99% of the time, there is only 1% truth, true history in the narrative. But the kids don't know it, okay? And they become completely detached from not only the history of their nations or their heritage, but at some point even from their families, because they will look at the elders who remember the old way and say, you don't understand, you can't relate to the world today. I can because I'm young and we know what's going on. And I'm bringing this up because I heard this conversation not only in a grocery store, but it was also addressed in a newscast, in a news broadcast. And what happens? What happens is when you lose your anchor, when you lose the idea of who you are and who your family is and what it represents and the history of your family and the values that they had to get through very difficult times, hard times, good times, and then maybe some bad times. The values that they had when losing loved ones to disease, to sickness, to death, to horrible crimes. Those values are not in our youth today. They're just not there. And, you know, here in Colorado, and actually many states in the United States, the youth are enamored with socialism, and they're enamored or curious about communism. Now, the only reason that they would be enamored with socialism is because they haven't been taught the truth about socialism. The only reason that they're intrigued by communism is because they simply haven't been educated on communism. And I know that this is going on everywhere. And this is part of the narrative of where they were creating this world government. And they were going to implement this world government as soon as they had all their pieces in place. The last piece that they needed to be in place was Hillary Clinton. Obviously, that didn't happen. And thank God it didn't happen. Now, the point I'm making is this. It doesn't matter where you live. It doesn't matter how you were raised. It doesn't matter the color of your skin. It doesn't matter your spiritual beliefs and or religious beliefs. Every single person on this planet has a right to life, has a right to live, to be secure in their person. And I have said this for years, that I would always support a world government if it was based on the United States Constitution and the Bill of Rights. Unalienable rights guaranteed. Now, I know in Europe you have the EU, and the elections that they hold are in secret, okay? So that's not self-rule, that's not self-government. That's literally a sham. There's no other word for it. Here in the States, we still have an election, but it's anybody's guess as to how honest it is. No one really knows. We're all making our best guess. The point I'm trying to make with all of this is that we have to pay attention to the narratives that we're being fed day in and day out. And the fact of the matter is, when you hear a narrative that does not empower you, doesn't offer you more freedom, doesn't secure your freedoms, doesn't want to engage you in participating in the creation and the building of a nation, any nation that's free, where its people are free, you need to completely ignore, tune out, and if possible, fire the people who are spelling out this rubbish to you. Because we're at a very critical point now on the planet. Okay? I'm not going to say as go America does the world. I don't necessarily think that's true. But there are a lot of things happening. And I told you a couple years back that when the field went down around the planet and the intervention began, that the dark side freaked. And what they did was they pushed all of their agendas forward all at once. They were supposed to come in stages. They were supposed to be implemented in stages. Instead, what happened was they threw it all against the wall. And as many of these extraterrestrial groups at the hierarchy of this cabal, as they were removed or taken out, what you're left with is the upper tier, which is primarily human. There's some Nephilim in there. There may even be some Anunnaki. But the middle management that was supporting the elites at the top, they're defecting like there's no tomorrow. And the reason they're defecting is because of Agenda 21, Agenda 2030, and Agenda 2050. Take your pick. They're all essentially the same thing. It's about eliminating the population, most of the world's population. We're forgetting that part with all these other distractions, but they're still trying to control the narratives. You see, the narrative is a constitutional republic is bad. Okay, socialism is good, even though it's never worked. Okay, bureaucrats should run everything because they're there every single day, and it doesn't matter who's elected prime minister or president or whatever other titles there are. The bureaucracy, which has been there forever and which is almost always corrupt, should run the nation states. I don't want us to get lost in the weeds here with all of this, because none of this is about them. None of this is about a single government that's going on right now. None of it. Everything that's going on is about you and me. It's about humanity. It's about every single person on the surface of this planet that has soul and is real. Do you understand? This is about us. The intervention that's occurring as we speak is not about the governments. It is not about the churches. It's about the people. It's about us. Okay? This is about us. The narrative has to be about us. And if the narrative is not about us, if it's not empowering, then you know it's bullshit. I don't know how else to say this, because we're getting it everywhere. We're getting the hardcore press. And what's interesting is that this narrative that we hear day in, day out, this mantra from major media all across the planet, you know, sedition and treason is not a big enough word for what they're doing to humanity. They literally are selling everyone out. I need to share some things that are going on, and I'm going to start out off world and then bring it back. Telescopes on Earth and in space have been watching the universe for years, taking pictures of the universe for years, infrared for years, etc., etc., etc. There are things going on that began in 2014 that are absolutely remarkable, and we're not hearing a word about it. They're publishing papers on it, but it'll never come to the light of day, okay? Because the narrative is about suppressing humanity, controlling humanity. It's wanting to control what you think and what you focus on. Because where your focus goes, energy flows. And they know this, okay? They know this. If they can get you to look at this situation, then you're going to feed this situation. Okay? They're such tricksters. They're just tricksters. That's all they are. Dark magicians. And we have to stop falling for this nonsense. From 2014 until November 11th of this year, something remarkable has been happening in our universe. Now, I'm referring to third density. That's all we can see is third density. What's happening is every galaxy has begun to synchronize itself, its spin, and its orbital rotation in the universe with every other galaxy, even if they're 20 million light years away. So let me say that again. Every galaxy is beginning to synchronize where it is and how it spins with every other galaxy in our known universe. Now think about that. Okay? It's no longer random. There is a synchronization going on all the way across the universe. Now, do you remember 100 years ago I told you about the 12th density? And how there were beings there who could see all the way down? And what they were doing is they were implementing a new frequency that would connect all the galaxies together. Is it possible that this is the first sign that we're seeing of this linkage between third, fourth, fifth, sixth, seventh, eighth, etc., etc.? Is it possible? Because this is absolutely unprecedented. Okay, galaxies aren't crashing into each other anymore, unless they're doing it presently. Okay, they're all moving into a synchronistic orbit with each other. This is stunning stuff. It's God. It can only be God for something like this to occur. Okay? Research November 11th. I believe the author's name is Victor Tangerman, Tangermann. You might want to look into that, because that is absolutely spectacular information. Because we can't even see the end of it, but what we do see is all of a sudden beginning to change. And what's interesting is that if it's synchronizing, then it's going to be creating a harmonic. And this harmonic will be across the universe. Each galaxy will be in a harmonic resonance with others, creating a frequency, okay, a very level, consistent frequency. Is this preparation for movement to a higher level? Think about it. First, you have to fix the imbalances, right? You'd have to fix the imbalances in order to make sure that everyone has a level playing field in order to make a jump. Okay, there's a lot going on. Now, along with that situation, this synchronizing of galaxies, Korea, the European Union, I believe India, I don't know that the Chinese have been part of this. The US has been part of this, NASA. They are now seeing stars being projected out of black holes. One of the stars that was projected out of a black hole was projected at, they estimate, at 3.5 million miles per second. Okay. That's faster than a speeding bullet. Maybe it's Krypton. But just think about this now, all right? We've all been taught nothing comes out of a black hole, okay, except energy, knowledge, wisdom, something. The A's have always said that we came out of black holes. Well, here we have stars. So what's on the other side of a black hole? Okay, is it a wormhole? Is it a parallel universe? What's interesting is that these stars have a very different frequency, a resonance. They're not like our stars. They're different. Now, if everything's coming into balance, into synchronicity, you would have to assume, or you could assume, that these stars now that are coming out of black holes would be of a higher vibration. And the reason I say this is that many stars are portals to not only higher dimensions, but also to parallel dimensions. You see, there's a lot going on here. And we should be knowing about this. Okay? We shouldn't be distracted with this nonsense about an ambassador whose feelings were hurt because she got fired because she refused to do something that the president asked her to do. I mean, we should be knowing about this stuff. Okay? Because this is something that affects all of mankind, especially on a physical and a spiritual level. And let's face it, we are all spiritual beings first, having a physical experience. We can't forget that. It's not the other way around. Okay? That's we have to pay attention to that. Some of these stars, they say, are absolutely older than what they think our galaxy, our universe is. That's interesting too. That clearly shows they're not from here. They didn't go in and then come back out. Okay, they're from someplace else. Now, if you want to research that, you want to look October 17th, 2019, John Christian, Jon, surname Christian. Ladies and gentlemen, that's amazing stuff, you know. We should be knowing about this. And then we start hearing the stories about Anunnaki and reptilian beings coming up from underneath the deserts in the Middle East. And I told you where the focus was of the underground warfare that's going on. Okay? There's a lot going on, and it's like we're all in this science fiction movie. Last webinar was like a horror movie. But today I'm an extra in the science fiction movie. And, the implications of these things are profound. They're absolutely profound. And they all point to a higher power. Now, let me just stress this again. As I have for the last 28, 29 years in doing this speaking. Now, I've not met all the other extraterrestrial races. My experience primarily is with one, the Zenitans, the Andromedans. I have seen other extraterrestrial groups with them, standing with them, interacting with them, but I've never been privy to meet them or be part of their conversations. In fact, if nothing else, I've been just a curiosity in those moments where I'm there and I've seen those scenarios. And they're impressive. There's no question about it. They're extremely impressive. And maybe that's too light of a word. In some respects, they're godlike. But you would only say that living on Earth. Okay? If you live on Earth, you would say that. if you were living in their cultures for any extended amount of time, you probably wouldn't say that. Okay, because for all of their knowledge, for all of their experience, for their longevity, for their spiritual knowledge, they're still imperfect, just like we are. They're still evolving towards some destination and goal, just like we are. They're just in a different place. Okay. It doesn't mean they're better. And it doesn't mean they should be worshipped. And that's the key here, that they should not be worshipped. And if they want to be worshipped, you need to run like hell from whoever it is that wants you to worship them. You need to run like hell, okay, away from them. And you will know their intentions. If that's what they want, you know their intentions. It's to glorify themselves. And that is not what we're going through here. What we're going through here is a process where humanity has hundreds of years to catch up, both technologically and spiritually, to become part of a galactic family. And Earth is unique. It's very, very unique. Because we have a collection of souls here that obviously scan the dimensional scale with incredibly diverse histories and experiences, which is all still locked up in our DNA for the most part. But once that's tapped into, I don't believe there's a problem that we have on this planet or an issue that we have on the planet with each other, with government, with the climate, with earth changes, with pollution, that we could not resolve. Because somewhere along our journeys, our past life journeys, especially in other higher dimensions, we already have this knowledge. Okay, we already have this knowledge of how to fix these things. Because we would have confronted these issues if we fell back into time from higher dimensions. We'd have already dealt with these issues. But as long as the narrative continues to suppress humanity, as long as the narrative continues to disempower humanity and to spin us in a circle so that we get angry, they're always going to be in control. We have to take the narrative away from them. We just have to. This has to be about us, not about them. Okay? This has to be about us, not about them. When you look at that, when you really grasp the intention behind their motivations and the intention behind their movements, their interaction with humanity, with all of us, that should tell you everything about who and what they are. And we should never support any kind of system like this that suppresses in any way. We should never, ever support it. What those people have lost besides compassion, and I'm not saying this about every one of them, what they have lost is that connection between the heart and the mind. They have forgotten all of the memories and experiences that they have had in past lives. They have forgotten the experiences that their own family members have gone through and are going through. They have placed their focus and intention on profit, financial security, a career. You go along to get along. And they have forgotten to look out for humanity. They no longer see humanity as family. They've become detached. And when you become detached, you isolate yourself with like minds. And those like minds generally create hybrid realities. And what I mean by that is that in creating a hybrid reality, you lose touch with everyone that's around you. You just no longer can relate. And that's what's happened with the Cabal. That's what's happened with the Dark Space Force. That's what's happened with the international banking groups. The Nephilim. Somewhere along the way, they made a decision that we didn't matter. I've been asked to remind you, all of you, that not only does this matter, but this has everything to do with us. Everything that's going on in the universe, around the planet, in our solar system, around the sun, all of this has to do with us. You know, early in my career in speaking, I took a lot of things to heart. It was really difficult for me to learn how to separate my feelings and my emotions from information, because I took it very personally. And in truth, I'm still very much that same person. I'd like to think that there's a shred more wisdom there than there was then. In that, always focusing on the big picture. What is the goal? What is the end result? And then reverse engineering it. Well, how is it that we're supposed to get there? Even though we still here on the surface have limited amount of information, I would hope that many of you sense great change is on the horizon. And it's very positive change. The more the media, the churches, spread negative, doom and gloom, apocalypse, nuclear war, yada, 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 yada. Ladies and gentlemen, that simply is not our future. It simply is not. If it was left to the dark side, they would have done this. Okay, they would have done this because it's their modus operandi that every time humanity reaches a critical point in changing consciousness, that hundredth monkey equation, where we get to a place where humanity is about to break free of its psychological chains, they do something to wound humanity. A war, or wars, or pole shift, or throw a meteor at the planet, a financial collapse. They do all these things and have done all these things in the past throughout the history of humanity, where these dark beings have been in control. They have done this to humanity over and over and over again. And what it does is it brings fear to such a level that the light simply collapses on itself because we're in fear. Because it's going to get real interesting. It's already getting interesting. It's been interesting. But as your peripheral begins to widen and you begin to become aware of all these pieces moving, you need to know that there is a strategy here. And all these pieces are literally falling into place. If you don't see it, it's only because maybe your peripheral is not open enough, or you're still learning to understand how this all moves and works. I mean, we all are. But this is going to work. This is absolutely going to work. These beings are going to be out of here. They're going to be taken out by whatever means necessary. We are going to have to regroup. We are going to be told the truth regarding our history, our DNA, what it's been all about. And we are going to be asked very specific things to do in order to truly self-govern our own race and our planet. I assure you they don't want to babysit. No one wants that. Okay? It's not what it's about. They want to go home to their families. But they got to fix this, because what happens here affects them. That's why they're here. Let's not forget that. Okay, they also have an ulterior motive for being here. That's not to say that they're not all in. Okay, they realize that humanity has always been the underdog. Isn't it interesting? Most of us always root for the underdog. That's because we can relate to that position, being the underdog. Humanity's always been the underdog. It always seems like we were at the short end of the stick. And just when things seem to we get there and, okay, we're going to start to cruise, something happens and they knock us down a peg, or 4 or 5 pegs. Okay? Just to screw with humanity, because they're sadistic son bitches. It's exactly how I feel. And you guys know I tell you exactly what I think. So, this is going to work, but it's going to get real interesting. And I wanted to bring you up to date with these components of what's happening, because there definitely is a higher power here at work. The synchronizing of galaxies that just blew my mind. And I have to assume it's happening on the other levels. It wouldn't start on third. Okay, the frequency is starting at the top and working its way down. And if you remember, Morine once said, they were not sure what the changes were. They were going to be learning just like everyone else, how to adjust to the changes. So whatever the ultimate goal of this frequency shift is, it appears to be not only stabilizing, but it appears to be something that's extremely solid and something very calm and peaceful. In other words, there doesn't appear to be any chaos whatsoever in the moves that are being made. It's like it's stabilizing everything. You know? And in that stabilization comes the fact that all the broken pieces will be able to find their way home. Okay? There is a lot going on. There is a lot to be thankful for. There is a lot to be grateful for, to acknowledge. The enormity of these changes is remarkable. And just knowing that these things are actually occurring should lift everyone's spirit, even if you don't understand it. Because the ETs aren't doing this, okay? The ETs are not synchronizing the galaxies on other dimensions. They just simply don't have that ability. They're all going through changes, okay? They're all going through changes, just like we are. And, the A's have always felt that if the Creator had a gender, it would be feminine. So I'm just going to say this. She's in control. Okay? She's in control. And she's flexing her muscle, and she's letting everyone know she's in control. So, I wanted to bring something else up. India has decided that they're going to explore Venus. And they're talking about a manned mission to Venus as well. Because most of what we've been told about Venus has just been horseshit. But I won't get into that right now. I think that's an outstanding idea. Because, Venus is an extraordinary planet. It came here between 4,000 and 5,000 years ago from someplace else. It came from another star system. It was dragged here the last time Nibiru came through. Or I should say Hercules, the dwarf star. So, and it's full of crystalline mountains and crystal or quartz crystal. It's loaded with gold. There's so much gold there, it's scary. And structures. There is water inside the planet. The planet's hollow. There is life. I think it's an outstanding idea that they go. And they should do it next week if they could. Okay? Isn't it interesting that NASA wants to send an orbiter to Pluto, but it doesn't want anything to do with Neptune and Uranus? Isn't that interesting? The ocean planets. I find that absolutely fascinating. They just don't want to go there. I'll tell you, never a straight answer. We have about a half hour for questions. I'm good with that, if everybody else is. In fact, I would love to. Listen, the next webinar is supposed to be on the 29th. But the library is closed because Thanksgiving is the 28th. And, civil servants, they get an extra day with pay. So the library is going to be closed. So I'm working on how to do this in 2 weeks on the 29th. And we'll definitely do it. It may be phone, and if it's phone, I would love to go maybe 3 hours, and do an extended Q&A. And we'll just have to see. But I'm just letting you know, we may not have the personal touch here, the visual. I prefer to do it this way, but we'll see. Okay? But if not, then we'll do the phone, and I'm totally open to doing a much longer extended thing if everybody's open to that, maybe. If I haven't put you to sleep already. So, JP, are you there?
Is this thing on still?
I hear you.
Excellent. So, from Mark Thrall, is the Earth's axis going to be adjusted soon so that we don't have to go through the god-awful winters anymore?
I don't know. I don't know. I just don't know. We'll have to see, you know. I'll try to find out for you. But you know, the seasons and the way they happen, they obviously offer some benefit to the Earth herself. Because if you look at the past, many areas that were covered with ice at one time are thriving with life now. And it's almost like, you know, a farmer's field. There comes a time where you have to just give it a rest, and allow the earth to replenish itself, to rest, to remineralize the soil, and allow nature to stabilize itself. I don't know if this is one of those consequences. I just don't know. You know, because, you know, I have the same concerns. You know, I absolutely love Colorado, but, you know, would I want to be here in 10 months of winter? Hell no. No, I wouldn't. I wouldn't. So we'll have to see. We'll have to see how it all works out. It could be it does. It could be that what the A's talked about that slow roll, where you basically put the North and South Pole become the equator. You know, if you put that on a globe, most of the landmass then is tropical. That could be interesting. You know, that could be very, very interesting for everyone. We'll have to see. I just don't know. But that's a good question. Thank you for asking it.
Margaret is asking, is it possible to communicate with ETs via the internet?
I don't know. I can't. I wouldn't want to. I don't even know how to answer that question. Why would they?
Do you get Wi-Fi on the mothership? All right. Sonia is asking, James Bartley has sent you an email inviting you for an interview. Did you get it?
I don't know. James Bartley?
Yeah, James Bartley remembers you from the old days. You were on the circuit. He used to lecture on the circuit as well.
I'll look. I'll look. You know, my Ivanhoe 1818 email box was full. And I now have had to have everything forwarded to another email. So that's what it's doing. It's piling up. Um, but I haven't gone through everything. Um, I'm dog paddling like the rest of us, trying to keep my head above the water. But I'll look. James Bartley. God, that name is familiar now that you mention it.
Yeah, nice fella.
Southern
Nice fella.
California?
Something like that. I think he's in Australia now, but he was.
Oh, good for him. Okay, I'll look. Thank you for the heads up on that, Tonya.
From Freddie Carroll, is it possible for Project Bluebeam to project images into people's heads?
I'm not aware of that. I'm not aware of that. Um, I'm not aware of that.
Trisha is asking, does Morine see us shifting timelines or a solar flare? I'm curious if we will see chemtrails will just disappear one day, or will it be a 50-year process of the global elite slowly losing their grip. Thanks, Alex.
Okay, thank you, Tricia. The last question, they don't have 50 years. They don't have 10 years, okay? I would say they have less than 5. At least based on what I know at the moment, 5 is the ultimate max amount of time they have. Even if it's that long. Now, as far as the chemtrails, my understanding is that we're already getting help with that, and in some parts of the world there no longer are chemtrails, but I do hear periodically where there are still chemtrails being used in certain parts of the planet. I'm not there, so I don't know for sure. Now, as far as a timeline for a solar flare, the sun is going into a solar minimum. So solar flares are supposed to be extremely rare. Now, if there's an outside influence that enters the solar system and triggers the sun, aka Hercopolis, that would be a completely different scenario. Now, I've heard it spoken that a solar flare is supposed to hit the planet and do something to our DNA. I have absolutely no knowledge of whether that's true or not. It has always been implied in my conversations with Mornay and Faseus that it wouldn't be instantaneous because most people's psychology simply wouldn't be able to deal with it. That for some it would be much quicker, and then it's obviously already happening to a lot of people that are waking up. Okay, their frequency is rising, their DNA is vibrating at a higher rate. They are totally responding to the human resonance, and with every jump, we adapt. Okay, that spreads out and lengthens our ability to hold higher frequency. And that's key here, especially in physical form, is to be able to expand and hold that higher frequency. And then there are others who are coming up behind. It's going to be in stages. Now, we may not be talking 50, 100 years for that to happen. If the galaxies are synchronizing because of a new frequency, that also means our galaxy is stabilizing and synchronizing itself with the frequency. So that affects us as well. So it's already occurring, the change in frequency. Do I think the sun is going to do something like that? I simply do not know. There has been talk in the past with Morné Faceas when we talked about the Nibiru system coming through, that as it went over the sun, um, the two interact with each other. And what you don't want to do is be in between those two, like Mars was once upon a time. You don't want to be in between those two, because the plasma lightning that's created by the positive and the negative is profound. Okay? And you don't want to be in the middle of that, which is why the delay tactic, so we would be on the other side of the sun. I would think if there was any threat to humanity by an explosion of a solar ray or a solar flare that of course would take out all of our technology, that they would probably put one or two motherships there to bounce it back, or to bounce it up, or bounce it below us, so that we would not take a direct hit. It's very easy to do, and it's logical if they're here trying to help us evolve and to get to the next level, that's exactly what they would do. They would just park a couple of ships, and they would use their fields and deflect the flare up or down or around us. Sort of a no-brainer, actually. And it's certainly something that I would do. I'm not worried about that at all. The only real genuine concern I have is whether humanity truly wants to be free. You know, are people absolutely ready to be self-reliant and self-aware, to take responsibility for themselves without being coerced by some higher authority? That is genuinely my only concern at this point. Will they do it? Because the ultimate goal for any civilization is to become a civilization of leaders. That doesn't mean you don't help, you don't do this, you don't do that, you don't maybe do dirty jobs. It's whatever contribution you have, but you're equal in all ways. It's just where we each find ourselves wanting to help humanity. We all have strengths. We all have weaknesses. The idea is to use your strengths to assist and help humanity as you learn to strengthen your weaknesses. So that at some point you don't really have any weaknesses. You are a holistic human being. You know, that's ultimately the goal. That's a good question. Thank you so much for that.
Mark is asking, does the soul have a gender, a sex, or is it only controlled by the body's chromosomes? Is our memory stored only in the soul? And if so, how do walk-ins get our memories? Is our soul somehow still connected? And what about organ memories?
Well, you sure got a lot in there on that one question. Does the soul have a sex? I would think the soul could, how do I put this? I can only speak for myself. Okay? I've been shown past lives holding the feminine principle, and I have been shown past lives holding the male um, principle. I relate to both of them. Am I both right now? No, I'm not. Okay? I'm clearly a male. Does the soul only hold the memories? No, that's obviously not true, because DNA holds memory. In fact, they know for a fact DNA holds memory for at least 7 generations back. When you transfer an organ, is it made of your DNA? Yes, it is. Do those memories attach should your organs, upon your demise, be used in a donorship program? The answer to that is yes. And there has been a lot of studies that have been done about that, where organ donors have memories that they know aren't theirs, that have come with the organ, including recognition of people. You have to remember that all physicality, when you break it down to its simplest form, is light. It's light and frequency, okay? It's a harmonic. Your DNA is an antenna, a harmonic. That transfers, because energy never dies. Even when the organs die, the energy doesn't die. It's transformed to something else, but it never dies. So as long as it never dies, memory is always with it. Okay, it doesn't go through the car wash. Doesn't get a wash and wax. Doesn't get a compound, and it comes out brand new, no scratches, no skiffs. None of that happens. Because the point of being spiritual beings playing in physical realms is to evolve the soul. And how far would you get if there was a rinse cycle and you were, and part of your life and your experiences were just washed away? That makes no sense to me. There is no rinse cycle. At some point, you have it all. And, Phaseus once said, he once said when he crossed over, when he left their physicality, and he said this very early on in my contacts with him, that he expected to look back at all of his lives and come to the understanding that it was all destiny. It was all destiny. Which would imply, if he's right, I don't know that, but if he was right, that you are exactly where you're supposed to be, doing exactly what you're supposed to be doing. If he's right. The Italians called it destino. When someone died, the Greeks, they never wrote obituaries. They would ask the simple question, did he live with passion? Did she live with passion? And they would celebrate that passion that those people had for life. And that separates us from a lot of other tribes of man in our galaxy and maybe in the whole universe, is that passion that we have. It's an enormous power. We just don't know how to control it. And because we don't know how to control it, we're played like violins, or we have been played like violins, by the dark side. So that's a good question. That's a very interesting question. That's my take on it. I don't know everything. If I did, I'd say, see ya. I'd be out of here. But I don't. I try, but I don't. I still have to go to summer school. Okay. I'm ready, James.
Lauren, I've never bought into the theory that Earth is a prison planet, but apparently Saturn is. What do you know about this?
Ooh. I don't know if I could even go there. Lauren, I don't want to go there. My gut tells me not to go there. That's an outstanding question. And it's certainly a question that deserves an answer. I don't know what my apprehension is about sharing the little bit of knowledge that I have. But let me just say this. The physical beings that are there, they're not human. They're not our race. Okay? They're not human beings as we know ourselves. They're different. Excuse me. And those that were there and put there, and to my knowledge are still there, were put there by the Nibiru. Not the Anunnaki, but the Nibiru. And they're two different tribes. And that's all I want to say. That's all I want to say. That's all I'm going to say for now. Okay?
Okay, here's one close to home. Presley is asking, races do the old Scottish royal bloodlines trace back to? I've been told that line of Robert the Bruce goes back to the biblical King David. Alien races in Scotland?
Well, she's talking about bloodlines. And, some of those bloodlines go to the Middle East, some go to Atlantis. I can't specifically say to the Scots which specific alien race that bloodline goes to, because at the time of the sinking of Atlantis, many of the tribes that were there, which represented many different races, they scattered and they were totally in survival. So that even if they were enemies, they were friends at the time because they were all in survival. And they realized they had to work together in order to survive. So they all migrated north and they migrated south, away from the cataclysm, which was Atlantis. So there was a lot of commingling of races and bloodlines. So I just don't know how to answer that question because I don't know. I know that part of the history of it. Some went, further into Africa. Some went into Northern Europe. Some went all the way up to Northern Russia. It all depended on how much time they had to leave. Many were proactive and left before. Many came to North America as well, and northern Canada, the coastline of Nova Scotia and all those areas. Um, you know, uh, they're finding bones of human beings in archaeological digs on the eastern coast of Canada that are of Middle Eastern descent that go back tens of thousands of years. Now, did they actually come from the Middle East, or did they come from Atlantis and some went here and some went there? The the DNA matches those that presently live in the Middle East. That doesn't mean they tens of thousands of years ago they left the Middle East to go to Canada. It's very difficult to know that for a fact. But again, that's why it's so important for us to know the true history of the planet and all of our races, because it will ground us in having some knowledge about who we are, who our ancestors were, and what it is that we physically and emotionally and traditionally, in the traditions that our families hold, what it's all attached to. Where did it come from? Why do we do these things? That's a good question, Presley. Thank you so much.
Okay. From B. Dale. Have you recently been speaking with the A's about the critical point in about 300 years from now, where there might be a conversion of DNA in the Milky Way turning reptilian?
What? Could you ask that again?
Have you recently been speaking with the A's about the critical point in about 300 years from now, where there might be a conversion of the DNA of the entities in the Milky Way turning reptilian? It
No.
says here.
No. I have not. And because of their physical structure, because of the reptilian's physical structure, they physically don't evolve the same way a human being does. In other words, time travel is very difficult for them because of their physicality. It has always been stated that they would be left behind physically, and that most of the reptilian physical species would not coexist with other races in the future. They simply wouldn't be around because physically they can't hold enough light. So I just don't see that happening. I don't see that happening at all. And I find it interesting you would ask that question. So why don't you shoot me an email, okay?
Here.
Shoot me an email to galahad1818@outlook.com. And let's talk about that. I'm curious to know why you would even ask that question. It's an interesting question, to say the least. Okay? Let's try one more question.
All right. From Pilatak. Alex, there used to be letters from Andromeda, which I love to read. Any updates of those? Personally, I would like to know their perspective on how to end trauma and addiction. And from me, how's How's Captain Dinar coming? Is there anything going to happen about that?
Oh, I would very much love to have the time to do that kind of stuff. Letters from Andromeda. Um, the money to put it out just never seemed to manifest. Thank you for remembering those, though. We had about 500 subscribers, who then made copies and passed them out to 10,000 more. But there was so much of that going on, which was fine, but it became cost prohibitive to continue to even do it. Because the membership would go down, the subscriptions would go down, and then it just became completely cost prohibitive to do. As far as Dinar, book one's done, book two is almost completed. It needs some really good editing. It has to be edited by a professional. But that's been a labor of love, and I did that for my kids. But we'll see. You just never know. You just never know what's going to happen in the future. Maybe we'll all have this blessing of prosperity that's been promised. Maybe one of these days it'll show up, and then we can all do these pet projects and things that we've been wanting to do for each other. We'll just have to see, we'll just have to see. We'll see. I have a lot of things on the shelf right now. I'm going through transition in my life. So, just what it is. Folks, I hope you've enjoyed this. Thank you so much for being here. My time is up. I don't want them to come roust me, because then they give me a hard time. I really appreciate all of you being here, and I've already shared with you about the 29th. So we have to keep our options open. It will happen. I just don't know what format. Thank you, James. Thank you, JP, for your dedication to this and holding it all together with chicken wire, duct tape, and baling wire. And thank you to you folks for your time and your energy and your blessings. We're all on this journey together. And I'm buying the first round, okay? When it's over, I'm going to buy the first round. All right, guys, I love you. I'll talk to you soon. Bye-bye.
Thank you so much for watching today's video. If you found it insightful, please like the video, and if you haven't already, please subscribe to our channel and click the bell icon so you don't miss out on future updates. If you have any questions relating to today's video, please also leave them below. We read all the comments and take on board what our viewers have to say about Alex Collier's work. Remember, your support helps Alex Collier's knowledge and the messages from the Andromedans reach more people. If you'd like to support the channel even more, you can give us a super thanks tip by clicking the heart icon with a $sign. It really helps our team bring you more content. Also, be sure to visit alexcollier.org to sign up for our regular email newsletter. It's the best way to stay updated with the latest news, exclusive content, and upcoming live webinars. For the latest insights from Alex Collier, check out alexcollier.live. And if you want to explore over 250 past webinars, head over to alexcollier.tv. Thank you for being a part of this journey and supporting Alex Collier's work. We couldn't do this without you, and we're genuinely grateful for your support. Until next time, stay curious and keep exploring the vast mysteries of our universe. If you would like to see the Andromedan contactee Alex Collier live via video stream, we hold a live online seminar every Friday at 2 p.m. Eastern Time, For more information on upcoming live webinars, please visit alexcollier.org.